Hello there.
You know what I've come for. This is the way.
I am a Jedi, like my father before me.
Hello and welcome to the Podawakens as we recap Book of Boba Fett, episode 4, or chapter 4, should I say, The Gathering Storm. With me today, again, is Logan Stump.
How's it going? How's everybody doing?
Going good. How are you?
You know, the galaxy feels imbalanced right now. I don't really know what's going on out there, but something's crazy. Something's crazy.
I'll tell you what feels out of balance right now is this weather up here. I was walking my dog and I'm like, it is cold. How cold is it? It is 18. It's like 23 degrees, feels like 18.
So you're saying you're on Hoth, right?
It very feels like it. Or as George Lucas would say, Hoth.
Sorry, yes.
No, it is weird how like sometimes he'll say like different pronunciations for stuff.
Yeah. You pronounce it Hoth? I pronounce it Hoth. Yeah.
I pronounce it Hoth, yeah. But I've heard him say Hoth before, but then I've heard him in a behind the scenes where he's like Hoth, and I'm like, I don't know, man.
I think George Lucas is out there just rattling things off in canon, going, yeah, sure, let's just call it that.
Yeah,
like Jar Binks, not Jar Jar. Although he wouldn't be,
Jar-Jar.
That wouldn't be very. I don't think George probably wasn't a fan of Jar Jar, was he?
I'm pretty sure he's a huge fan of Jar Jar. From what I remember from episode 1 behind the scenes.
I can't remember if there's anything that he's talked about that.
He was a big fan of Jar Jar. Now, of course, he course corrected because people did not really like Jar Jar that much. But
put him in the background, man. He went from like one of the biggest roles in the movie to like you see him in passing.
Yeah.
It's like, there's Jar Jar.
Each episode, he got less and less screen time.
I think there's one point where I think it's when they're talking like to the Republic, or like they're in that, what is that, like the big, it's where it's almost like
the
Congress,
Senate.
The
Senate.
Yeah. And it's like they're sitting in there and they're talking about it, and Jar Jar's kind of like in the background of the little car that cruises by.
I think episode 3, you really only see him either in the Senate and then like at Padme's funeral, like walking next to her casket. Like that's like all you get of Jar Jar in Revenge of the Sith. But we're not here to talk about Revenge of the Sith.
Are we sure? I thought this was the Jar Jar episode.
Yes, this is. He's that, the music at the end when she's like, hey, some hired money can get you. That's a hint to Jar Jar, actually.
Right. That is not Din Djarin's.
Could you imagine if that's the hired help they get? They get Jar Jar and he's like, me so happy to be here.
I'm telling you, the Boba Fett, the buzz on Twitter is already so divisive. Just the buzz around this show has been very divisive, and it really has kind of torn some people. That would you'd have people blow up, I think, like just spontaneously combust if Jar Jar just shows up.
I would love it.
Or if he comes in and like smacks Din in the head and kills Din.
I'm all for it. I'm all for
chaos,
people off. So that would be great to just see like Jar Jar walk in and like everybody's expecting the Mandalorian, and you just get Jar Jar showing up with a bunch of Ewoks or something.
Yeah. I was gonna say, this is before we get back on track. If anybody's a fan of soccer, this is a man that's speaking that is the ultimate fan, the biggest fan of the League of Chaos and the region of chaos. Like, so Jordan, I would not doubt that you would probably get on Twitter right away and just start filming your live reaction of Jar Jar just going absolutely ham on Din with a couple Ewoks walking by, killing Grogu, just absolutely just going Anakin on Grogu.
I would be there with my popcorn in my hand to see the reactions for the rest of the fan base, is what I'm saying.
I think you'd lose a lot of Star Wars fans.
Because, to be honest, this is all just made up stuff. This is not something to take super seriously.
No.
So the way that people sometimes hold on to some of this stuff is fascinating to me. There's a whole movie about the people versus George Lucas. I watched before. That thing is terrible. Before everybody railed against Disney and Kathleen Kennedy, people were railing against the guy who actually made Star Wars. So, now they long for him.
Yes.
But they didn't like what he was doing. And I'm sure if he came out with 789 and it was his own version of 789, people wouldn't like that either. He would not have done what they wanted either. Some of his ideas of Luke being, alone and removing himself came from George in his treatment. So it's not like, everybody would have gotten the Luke Skywalker. They thought that we're just going to see Luke, Han, and Leia cruising in the Falcon at 60 years old, blowing stuff up. He would have done something new. He was always pressing for new things. So I don't know if people would have liked it anyway. So that's what's interesting. It's the biggest like what if, right? Like I would love if they came out with a Star Wars what if, like they did with Marvel.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
And the what if was, what if we did George Lucas's treatments and put them out there, see what they were. That'd be very interesting. Have George do an animated series of what his ideas were to see if people would have actually liked it. That's what I want to know.
Yeah, that would be cool to kind of get some artist takes. I mean, before J.K. Rowling went absolutely J.K. Rowling on us, like that would have been cool to see the Harry Potter stuff. It'd be cool to see the Lucas stuff. Even the Kevin Feige, like I know What If is kind of that variation, but like even if Kevin Feige could pull things up that they were thinking about, like then it's not even like delete it, but like what were you thinking about? Maybe some paper trail of like who were you going to put into that role, or like anything like that would be cool. Just like these shows that come out. There you go, Disney Plus. Hire Jordan because I think he's got a really good idea for that kind of show. Like the what if we put out the creators' version of what they wanted to see, and now that they can kind of look back and reflect on that, that'd be pretty cool.
Let's get back on track. We're here to talk
Wait,
the
Book
Book of Boba Fett, Chapter 4, The Gathering Storm, directed by Kevin Tancharoen, if I said that right. He directed a few episodes of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Written by Jon Favreau, premiered January 19th on Disney+. We got a classic synopsis here. Boba Fett partners with Fennec Shand. What's your initial thoughts on this episode, Logan?
See, I didn't have a problem with episode 3. The only thing was like kind of like the bike thing, like the colorful bikes kind of threw me off a little bit. But I enjoyed 3. I've enjoyed it all. I've loved it. Right, we've talked about that. And this one got me back into the feel goods. Like I just liked the feeling of this episode. I really enjoyed very much so the mob scene, kind of like the mafia scene where he's sitting at the table, which we'll get to. But I really enjoyed this one. It felt like it was getting into the real good thick stuff, and then it stopped, and I was like, all right, now I've got this feeling. He's laughing at me. But I liked being in the feels. I liked having the feels of when you watch Mando, because that's kind of what it felt like again. Like, and it wasn't just because of what happens, but in alluding to that, but it was the fact that it felt like this was leading into something in the next episode that's going to be big. And I like that. I like that feeling. And I feel like Disney does that well with Marvel, and they do that well with Star Wars, where you've got these shows that kind of lead into something and can tell a story, and it's going to now start to web itself together, which I really enjoyed. And again, I really liked this episode a lot. So I'm ready to get into it because I think it's got a lot of good stuff going forward.
Yeah, I hated this episode. I'm just kidding. This was a.
I kind of. I'm not gonna lie to you.
I was doing my best. I was doing my best Twitter impersonation. Sorry.
I thought okay, but I thought you were serious because we hadn't really had that much conversation, because I know we wanted to leave it kind of for this. But I was like, oh my god, did he really hate it? It's like, man, this is gonna be a weird episode then.
No, I thought it was great. It's one of those. I mean, I too have enjoyed them all. I think the weak point so far has been the direction. I didn't mind the different color bikes or anything. My biggest complaint from last week was how slow the action felt. And I think that has to do with somehow. I know Robert Rodriguez has done other stuff. He did a really great episode of Mandalorian where Boba was cracking skulls. And I thought that was great. But I saw some similar complaints about that episode of The Mandalorian, saying the actions felt weird. And I think in episode 1, we had that weird action scene with the shields, which didn't really bother me, but a lot of people thought it was a very slow, clunky fight scene. And then we had the same thing with the race scene. But episodes not directed by Rodriguez so far have felt better. Mm-hmm. And I think that's how this one felt. This one felt better. Like that action scene in Jabba's palace felt right. There was nothing there where I was like, oh, they're not cutting this right or it's too slow. Mm-hmm. Like, and it's tough to say that because I'm sure, and that's what I guarantee there's going to be complaints about the finale because I'm 95% sure Robert Rodriguez filmed the finale because he's doing 3 episodes. He did the first one. He did the third one. He's probably doing the last one. Because that's usually for your main director. You're going to have them do the first one. You're going to have them do the last one. And you're probably going to have them do one in the middle. So I think we'll see a lot of similar complaints about that there. But this episode felt directed like normally. Like nothing felt out of place direction-wise. Mm-hmm. I did see some complaints about the mod guy, like it being a little too cyberpunk. But look, I mean, this is... you are very damned if you do, damned if you don't with Star Wars. And what I mean by that is you have people who say, I want... this doesn't feel Star Wars, mm-hmm. right? And they say that, and that's why we get something like the sequel trilogy, which I love. Mm-hmm. But we get something that's very reminiscent of the original trilogy because people said the prequels were way too far off base. Yeah. So then they go closer to that in the sequels. But then people say, you're not being original enough. You're doing the same stuff. And then when they are original, you get stuff like that doesn't feel like Star Wars again. So it really is this fine line that anybody that deals with Star Wars has to walk. And like I said at the beginning of the show, that seemed out of place, but is actually on topic, mm-hmm. is people were telling George that something he wrote as Star Wars was not Star Wars. And that's something that creates a thing of everybody has what is Star Wars different in their mind. Mm. I saw people, like you said, complaining about the 1950s style Vespas. Mm-hmm. People point out, okay, well, Dex's diner in episode 2 is a 50s diner. It's true. And yet people say, well, I don't like that diner anyway. Yeah, but it's still Star Wars. Mm-hmm. So it doesn't matter if you like it or not. It either, if it's under the Star Wars umbrella, it actually is Star Wars. And I think that's something we all kind of got to get accustomed to. But
so do you think the fix, like, just to go to that point, like, do you think the fix is to make more of these shows that do branch away? Because we're still dealing with Boba, right? We're still dealing with characters and creatures that exist in Star Wars. Like, I always thought the answer would be to start going from those characters that we know and are familiar with and love to getting into more things that are weird, right? Like, I know that there are shows coming that I think are going to branch into that, but I do feel like a good instance is the Fallen Order. Like, I always felt like that was perfect because it really did feel like those were not characters we recognize. Yes, those are Jedi, but we don't know like the storyline in which those fall. And I felt like it was far enough away until it got to Vader and stuff where it felt like we were getting different instances, different planets, different worlds that we had been on. Like, I still feel like there still needs to be some branching out and getting completely away from things we know so that these fans stop going, well, this doesn't feel like Star Wars, because it is all Star Wars.
I think you're always going to have this problem.
Yeah.
People talk about, and I've talked about before, that I want something completely removed from the Skywalker saga. Go 3,000 years beforehand, or go 3,000 years in the future, go 100 years in the future. Something to get away from characters we know and fresh start. But then you're still going to have people say, well, that doesn't jive with what I know. I like imagine if they show us a planet we've already known, right? Mm-hmm. Let's say they go 100 years in the future, and they show us Coruscant is blown to hell.
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna have people be very upset about that. You're gonna have people be upset about it because they'll be like, "Well, I wanted to see regular Coruscant. Why is it blown up? What is going on?" And actually, the rumor is that JJ wanted to blow up Coruscant in Force Awakens. Mm-hmm. Didn't get approval, and that's why he had to make the Hosnian Prime. Mm-hmm. And what I saw from that already was people commenting that, okay, he doesn't respect George then if he wanted to blow up Coruscant. He didn't like the prequel, so he wanted to blow up Coruscant. Or it would have meant more if it's a planet we already know. Mm. Because guess what? Nobody felt anything for Hosnian Prime because it was literally made up for The Force Awakens.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of, no matter what you do, people are going to look at something and say, well, that's not right. Why they jump that far in the future? Or why is it this big of, and I guarantee when we get something like the High Republic, and we get Acolyte, which is the show coming out based in the High Republic, we're going to get the same complaints. This isn't Star Wars or whatever. For something. It could be, and it's funny. This is all written by Jon Favreau. He wrote Mandalorian, which everybody praised as being the second coming of Star Wars. And guess what, though? People are blaming Boba Fett on what? Disney.
Right.
Kathleen Kennedy again. When the credits say it's Jon Favreau, and he wrote The Mandalorian. And I think what we have to realize is there isn't one guy or one girl that's going to put exactly what you want as Star Wars, because their definition of Star Wars is different than yours. And, for Favreau, this is the story he wanted to tell. This is his idea of Star Wars, and you're going to have to jive with it or not. And like I said, that equates to Lucas. He told his version of Star Wars, and it wasn't for everybody, after the original trilogy. So we're way off base again, but I think it's a healthy discussion of, we have to at some point just accept that either we're going to accept the storyteller's vision or we're not. And maybe for people that are going to keep saying, I'm not watching Disney Star Wars again, to actually follow through on that. Because I feel like they say it every time, but they're right back in line for the next project. Mm-hmm. And then they rail against it again. So it's like hate watching. And I never understand people hate watching a TV show or a movie, because I got other things to do with my time than watching something I detest.
That's a good point. That's a good one.
Could be doing so many other things.
Like more podcasts.
Yes. Like my 50 million podcasts that we have to do. Okay, I guess we can dig in a little bit more to the actual plot here. But I thought that was good. I thought that was a good conversation there, because we can come back to it when people freak out about the next project anyway and say, hey, we said this was going to happen to you. But because I do worry for Mandalorian season 3 now, that people are going to be like, well, if they continue showing Boba in it or something, are they going to be like, well, that's not really Boba Fett I like, and they're going to end up not liking Mandalorian season 3? I don't know. What if Din does something that they don't like because, they think it goes against his character? Stuff like that, where it's a fine line.
Oh, just wait. The Grogu people that didn't like Grogu, that thought he was just kind of there, like a stuffed animal, are going to be like, where's Grogu? Why is Mando not with Grogu anymore? Where'd Luke go? Why did Luke leave? Like, why
He'll
did
be back.
It's like, it just doesn't make sense.
In the back to tank, we have Boba Fett, which I thought we were almost done with these. This episode is like, what, half and half? Or pretty close to half and half of past and future? Past and
because
present?
of all the stuff with Fennec, Yeah,
we get a lot of great stuff with Fennec Shand. We get, we get Boba trying to get his ship. So it opens out with him staring at the ship, right? Mm-hmm. And he can't. He is with his bantha, and he says, "Not today." We're not. There's too many guards. Then what we see is as he's riding, we see the flares from chapter 5 of The Mandalorian season 1, which is the flares that Mando was using. So that way, the guy he was with, Toro, I think his name was, they were using these flares to distract Fennec from her visor. She was using like a heat sinking thing, so a heat map type of thing. And with the flare, it disrupted her enough so that way they could get around her and put her down. So he sees the flares and he starts heading over there. And that's when, by the time he gets there, we see that very last scene of chapter 5 of The Mandalorian where we had footsteps going up to Fennec, and people were able to tell from audio cues that it was Boba Fett, and it was confirmed in one of the episodes, I think chapter 14. Yeah, I think it was chapter 14, the one where they get Boba's armor back. That's when we see Fennec Shand alive again, and she says, "Hey, Boba Fett saved me." So we get those things, and he's going to pick her up, and he's going to see that she's shot, and he wants to go help her. He's going to take her to a mod shop, which I usually can keep track pretty well on timelines and stuff. I watched Dark on Netflix, which is a German time travel show that goes all over the place. Was able to keep track of that, but for whatever reason, I saw the mod things, and I was like, that makes sense. He's got his mod friends. He's going to go there, and they're going to help. And I was like, wait, no, that happens after this.
Yeah.
And I felt like an idiot. But it did make sense then that, okay, we've been introduced to this before, and it makes sense. And again, people I've seen complain about this, but, Darth Vader is a mod. Right?
Yes. Yeah.
Luke, you can even say, is a mod with his
Right.
hand. We've been introduced. General Grievous with his 6 arms. And the fact that he was, like a mod, it's something that has been around in Star Wars. So I think this fit well. But what was your thoughts here on, did you ever think we were actually going to see him get her healed or not? Or would you just think it was going to be like implied what happened? Or
Yeah, I guess I didn't really ever think about it until it happened. But I guess well, in that case, I thought it was just going to skip forward and we were going to get more of like, him and her kind of having that relationship after. I didn't really think we'd start here where he would get the mod and then have her healed and fixed. And then the interactions that he's had trying to get her fixed. And then after that, what that leads to. But yeah, I didn't. I enjoyed this scene though, because I did the same thing you did though, because I'm like, oh, well, those are the same thing like the mod people that exist that he'd met. But I'm like, wait a minute, no. But I think what they did that so we understood that these mod people did exist, which made sense back when you look at it, like you said. But no, I enjoyed this scene, and I like Dr. Thundercat was cool. Like he was a cool looking guy, so I thought that was a good scene, and it felt.
I've never heard of this guy. Yeah, he's apparently like an actual like band like he's in a band or like he does a DJ thing. I don't know.
Yeah, Stephen Lee Bruner, aka Thundercat, which I have no idea what that is, but described by GQ as Spago Rock. I don't know what that means, but that's
Frago Rock?
Spago. Spago. I have no idea how to say that word, but I don't even know what it is. I'm just saying what I read.
Yeah, I have no clue.
No idea, but he's cool looking. I liked him. So.
Yeah, I saw a lot of people on like Reddit being like, "It's Thundercat," and I'm like, "What? Who's Thundercat?"
I thought it was a Star Wars character at first. I was like, "Who are they talking about?" Maybe Jordan.
You're like, "Yeah, we're getting Black Chrysanthemum and we're getting Thundercat."
I was like, "Man, this is real cat's meow right here." Like, this is great.
Yeah, you know what? Actually, he's a huge comic character. I forgot to mention that.
Yeah, thank you. Is that like Wolverine's brother? I'm so confused right now.
No, that's Sabretooth.
Oh, okay, yeah, sorry.
Wrong
universe.
But yeah, so we get those things going on here. Now, so they save her life with the cybernetics,
mm-hmm.
and he's going to ask for her help here. He wants help getting his ship back. Now, she wants to kind of know what's in it for her, right? And he pretty much lays it out that, like, hey, wouldn't you rather... He's like, he pretty much says, I'm tired of being led by idiots. Is pretty much his pitch here, right? Like,
yeah,
we do all this stuff for them. We're hired guns.
Yeah.
But they have no idea what they're doing. And we could do it so much better, and we could be so much more efficient, and we won't have to die for it.
I was gonna say
And
that's where he
that's
says
his
like
whole
the
bit.
bounty hunting. Yeah, that's where he says like the bounty hunting thing, where he goes, "Why do bounty hunters always have to die for the people that rule us?" Kind of thing.
And it makes sense. His father was a bounty hunter that died because of the incompetence, I guess you could say, of Count Dooku. Which, you know, maybe it wasn't really incompetence for Dooku. Dooku probably didn't care, honestly. But, you know, he saw it as an unnecessary death.
Yeah.
You know, and I think when he is doing bounties for people like Jabba, he's like, really, this, you know, like, there's better ways to do it. You know, there's better ways to get it. And his time with the Tuskens has shown that, I'm not sure if he always felt this way, that they were all stupid and he could do it better. But I think he has. And then I think his time with the Tuskens shown that, okay, you can also be a respectable leader, and that might ultimately play out better for you. And it's going to make him, you know, lead to some of these deals that he wants to make here, which I think is very interesting. Now, what was next after that? We get, you know, it's like this fireside chat with Fennec, and him is talking about that. And she pretty much says, I'll help you get it, and then I'm going to be on my way. Which we as viewers already know wasn't true, because we've seen her, you know, going around with her in the present. But they're going to go to Jabba's palace. They're going to use a droid, like a little stealth probe droid, get a map of where everybody's situated. And their plan is to go in and get the ship, the Slave One, which is a fire spray, which is what he mentioned. They're going to go in there. They're going to get the ship. They're going to get out. And I thought this was great. I love them going into the, like, through the kitchen. And I love just seeing the droids of, you know, Jabba's palace, and, you know, the little Muppet, it's pulling its head out of the, you know, like, boiling pot, you know, and then, like.
So did you see there was a lot of breakdown, like Easter egg stuff, and that was like a nod to General Grievous, because it's like how
the
he
chef
died.
with his
like the chef
with his he has,
I was like, that's
like,
so
a
cool
knife in each hand, and he does like the.
And I think the other one was Dooku when he gets his head knocked off or something. I can't remember which Easter egg it was, but whoever has their head. No, it was, sorry, not Dooku. It was was the Emperor. Who? I don't know.
Dooku loses his head.
Yeah, Dooku loses his head. It's yes, that's what it is. Yeah, because it was like a nod to that too, with the droid losing his head.
I didn't realize the droid lost his head. I guess I didn't pay much attention to.
I didn't either. I was watching back on the Easter egg thing, and I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. Like there's very subtle nods. Also, when you're talking about him getting in the when he was getting in the ship, he like, it shows a scene where he's sitting like this. And it's the same that he did when Jango was fighting, when he was fighting Obi-Wan. And that was kind of a cool nod, because he sits back in the ship just like when he was a kid. Like, it's almost like where he's laying down in it. It's pretty cool.
Well, yeah, that's how they have to. Yeah, that ship has to. Like, you have to board it regularly and then lay down, and then when it moves up, you're like right side of it. It's a bizarre.
It's like a face. Yeah,
it's a very bizarre thing. Yeah, I just always see a smiley face in the exhaust. It's kind of like.
Yep.
Little happy, pleased, smiling face.
Yep.
So they go through there. That's great. We also get like some damage to Jabba's palace and some damage to the Slave One as they're trying to get out of there. And he's got this tight room to operate, and he can't really get it going. And, they got to get the door open so that way they can get out of there. And Fennec is going to, be able to get them out, open up the door. They get out of there. And then, like, their first plan of business here is to go get revenge on the group of the biker gang that had beat the Tuscans.
Mm-hmm.
And I just love, this was a great shot scene. You have the slave one just creeping up behind them on the bikes and then just taking them down. That was awesome. That's what also, like, for people saying Boba got soft, I mean, check that out. He
Fennec called him soft.
And I love that. Yeah. It's almost like they were writing this in real time. Yeah. They knew what people were going to say about Boba.
They did.
And that's what I guess I don't understand is when people are complaining without seeing the whole thing. Like, I can understand if it's a 22 episode show and and you have a lot of time, but when it's 7 episodes, like, you're going to get the whole story. Like, wait for the whole story, and you're going to find out that they understood what they were doing. They said, she says, "Oh, living with the Tuscan has made you soft." And we get Boba's perspective of, no, it made me strong. It made him a better person. Yeah. It made him stronger. And I think that's a perspective that Boba has that's very interesting.
It's a cool one. And it's in that fireside chat. So it's kind of like, she's the assassin and she's like, "I'm not soft, but you're soft, Boba." And Boba's like, "I don't have to be soft anymore. Like, I grew up my whole life thinking I had to be this hardcore dude. And that's how I was going to survive as a bounty hunter." And then he's like, "No, that's not how." That almost got me killed. And again, that's where I think that whole thought process of, like, the people that lead us, like Jabba, all their goal is to do is to get us killed. Like, we're doing their bidding. And if we die, we die. They don't care. So that was a cool moment for me. And just kind of, like you said, Jordan, the fact that they were able to leak that, or like just kind of like spill that in without even knowing what the actual crowd would react, is pretty cool. Because I think that just shows you how good Jon Favreau is at, kind of seeing that big picture. I think he's much more of the big picture, and you kind of get to see that in some of the writing and producing that he does.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's and what he says too is if Boba says kind of something about the big picture. I'm not sure if he uses those words, right? But he's like, she says, "Hey, as long as I get paid," and he's kind of like living with the Tuscan to show me there's more to life than that. Mm-hmm. There's more than just getting paid. It's I think his viewpoint is making the world a better place, and that's what he's trying to do by taking over and instilling his rule of respect. Let's not forget, he was captured by the Tuscans. He says they bring him in and made him his own, but that was only after he saved their child. Before that, he was a slave. He was a prisoner, tied up, having to dig for water for them. That was what he did. Mm-hmm. And I think with that, it shows, he's got a whole different perspective now. I think he would take things from each culture he knows if he's going to lead. Okay, right. I'm going to treat you like family. I'm going to bring you in. I'm going to treat you like family. But, I'm not going to, like we saw with Chrysanthemum last week, the Hutts give him as a prisoner and he says, "Go." Mm-hmm. He's not going to be one to enslave somebody. He's been there. He's done that. He's going to say, "You're free to go." It's all business. That's kind of his thought process. And you know what? It works out so much well to his advantage because we haven't gotten there yet, but he's going to bring Chrysanthemum into this operation. Mm-hmm. And do you think he would willingly want to help him if he had him as a prisoner? No. He lets him go. And he's going to go to him and say, "Hey, I got a job for you if you want one." Mm-hmm. And it's the same thing he did with the biker gang last week. "Hey, this guy wants me to kind of get on your butts about what you're doing, but you're saying that you can't afford it because there's no job. Well, how about you work for me?" And it's like unconventionally trying to make a better life for people, right? Like, okay, if there's no job, then you're going to work for me. And I'm also going to pay your debt for the water. And now you feel indebted to me, but but I'm not forcing you to. Right? Like, you feel indebted to me because I helped you out of a tough jam. It's called being a good friend, and it makes people be loyal to him. He did the same thing with the Gomorians, that he says, you were loyal to other people. Will you be loyal to me? They say yes. And they show it in that first episode. They come to his aid when he's hurt, and they get him to his back to tank. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of like this common theme so far of he's presented with a way to do it, and he says, no, I'm going to do it my way. And then the people thank him for it, and the people join him for it.
Yeah. You saw this with Den too. Like you saw when you rule with respect, which Boba had kind of always learned, no, you just rule with authority and power and fear. He's learned that has not been the way. And everybody that he knows, that even his father have ruled that way or have been part of that ruling, have died. And he knows that. And he knows that a fate similar to theirs could be had if he continues down the path that they did. And we'll get into a bunch of cool scenes here soon that really show he is much more interested in ruling with respect and having people trust him rather than trying to fearmonger and really create this fear and suspense. And like you said, Black Chrysanthemum would never have joined him in a million years. And there's a moment that we'll talk about later coming up that I kind of want to talk about, like when you could see that in Black Chrysanthemum, what made him switch, which was really cool.
Okay, so the next scene that we get to is he goes to... Well, I want to ask you before we get to this. Do you think the biker gang actually are the ones that killed the Tuskens?
I'm starting to think that...
I mean, their logo was on there, but anybody could have put that on there.
Yeah, I'm starting to think it was more of almost maybe a distraction of sorts. Like, I don't know. Like, it doesn't seem... I don't know. It seems like they much more in fear than they would be if, turn around and try to get away from it. And yeah, it seems almost like it was plotted out by someone. I'm
starting to think it's the Pikes that did it.
Yeah, me too.
If that's going to be revealed, just because I think that would give Boba a more personal reason for taking on the Pikes.
Mm-hmm. Because all it did was take the drawing, and it was like, it just all they have to do is know the logo, and it was like
right, and they know that gang's probably been around. So I mean, I don't know. I think that could work. If not, it's going to be them because maybe they were upset that Boba kicked their ass in the in the Anchorhead station or whatever. So that's interesting. I guess we'll see how it goes there. And then we get into the, he goes to the Sarlacc pit, and people complained about this as well, saying, well, he obviously had his armor on when he got off. The dude was dehydrated. The dude was lacking oxygen, and then laying in the sun as Jawa stripped off his armor. He probably has no idea what happened to it, or he has no memory of it. He got hit in the head too, I think. So for him, he's like, okay, the last time I remember having my armor was at the Sarlacc pit, so that's where I'm going to go look for it.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't remember the getting out of there with it. And I know people will say, well, his memories from the back to tank show he did get out of it, but that back to tank is from after he checked the Sarlacc pit already. Mm-hmm. So at a certain point, he gets to the back to tank and he's like, oh, there's my memories. Oh yeah, they weren't in there. Why did I look for them there?
Yeah.
But anyway, we get this great scene of the Sarlacc coming out and trying to take down Boba's ship. And we have Fennec, who has to unbuckle herself, click the seismic charge. The seismic charge is going to have to fall out perfectly, go into the Sarlacc, and we get the classic boing sound as we blow up the Sarlacc pit. What did you think of this scene here?
It was cool. First of all, the Sarlacc pit, I didn't think it would be able to take down his ship, but it was going to. And then I think it's cool because it kind of shows. I like these scenes that kind of allow that character like Fennec to kind of grow into earning the respect of the character that has saved them and kind of rescued them, where it's like, I can do a lot of cool things too. So this was a cool scene. I liked Fennec being basically like, just trust me. Okay, I got this. Because at that point, Boba was like freaked out. He's like, not again. Like this this cannot be happening, right? And I think that was kind of cool because he was in a sheer panic, being in control of that ship, and then all of a sudden, Slave One's about to get eaten alive like him, and that was pretty cool to watch. This was also the moment for the first time that he confirms that his armor is Beskar, right? Like, this is like when he's talking about, like, she was like, if that had eaten you, then your armor would have been gone too. And he's like, no, like, it doesn't do that. Was that this moment?
I think we always knew it was Beskar.
Yeah. Like, I think we assumed, but I don't think Boba had ever said that that's what it was. Because, like, I was watching that video today, and it was like, this was like the first acknowledgement. I was like racking my brain going, was this really the first time that Boba admitted to it being Beskar? Like, I don't think he's ever said it. It's pretty interesting.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. I mean, obviously, I probably so, because I don't think. Well, I think it might be mentioned in The Mandalorian, because remember, Mando is the one that's like, you can't have Beskar because that you're not Mandalorian.
Oh, that's
So I think that may have been mentioned there, but I don't think Boba ever really talks about it.
Interesting.
At all. But so then we get into the present, and we have him going to the hub place that we've been going into that has Max Rebo and Chrysanthemum's there drinking, just chilling. And we have some Trandoshans who are, winning in their gambling or whatever. And it's really upsetting Chrysanthemum. I'll tell you why it is, because if you don't know, Trandoshans have been slavers in the past, and they have enslaved Wookiees before. So there's a beef there. So he's upset about that, and the fact that they're having good luck, I guess, while he's there. So he goes up and he starts causing some problems, and we get Jennifer Beals' characters. What's her name? Garza.
Garza, yeah.
Garza comes over, and she's, trying to talk up Chrysanthemum. You're so good. I think she calls him Santy or Santa or something. It's great.
Yeah, it's like a pet name.
It's great. But, she's trying to, like, pump him up, gas him up. You're great. You don't need to do this, and I'll wipe your bar tab clean. And instead, he does kind of back off a bit. He's only going to rip off one arm of the Trandoshans here. And then he's going to go over and pay his tab, which I thought was a baller move. And then he's going to walk out of there. And, she's a little disappointed, like, I thought I had him, but
best line of the show or that episode was when Boba goes, well, it's worth a shot.
Yes. Yeah.
I don't know what you want me to do. Because Boba's kind of looking at him like, I can't help you.
He respects it. He probably would have tried the same thing if it was in his place, right? Because he's like, I'm trying to roll with respect, man.
It felt very Han Solo-ish. It kind of had that feeling of like, I just blasted through your person over there. So here's some points to kind of help you forget about what really happened.
And then he just walks out. And that's when, Boba's going to turn around and be like, hey, recruiting him.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I just thought, Chrysanthemum has been the scene stealer of the show, man. Black Chrysanthemum has been great. And the fact that, again, I got to keep talking about this, the way that they're able, Filoni and Favreau, to bring in characters from the comics, the books, the cartoons, and make them feel like they fit right in to the live action Star Wars. And if you're not a comic reader, or if you're not friends with a comic reader or somebody that knows this stuff, you think this is probably an original creation here, and you're like, man, this Wookiee's pretty cool. But then you can Google it, and you'll be like, oh, no, he's actually in other things. Like, that's awesome. I can read about him more, or I can appreciate it, You know what it reminds me of, Logan? It reminds me of, like, a Marvel thing, right? Like, if you go see an MCU film, right? So, okay, you go see Eternals, right? And you have Dane Whitman. And throughout that whole thing, you have no idea Dane's anything special.
Yep.
You see the end credit scene and you're like, oh, maybe he's somebody? I don't know.
Yeah.
And it could still work. You're like, that was interesting. I want to learn more about him. But then if you have a comic friend, your comic friend's like, oh, yeah, that's Black Knight.
Yeah.
And, he's got this sword and it's going to be awesome. It's kind of the same thing of like, oh, I like this Wookiee guy. Oh, wait. He's actually another character. He's a character. And the same thing with Ahsoka. Oh, I like this Jedi. Oh, she's in the cartoons. That's pretty cool.
This is where you helped me tremendously because
Yeah.
I am that friend that's going, what the hell? Black Chrysanthemum's become probably one of my favorite. The really cool part is when he's sitting on the booth and he's got the brass knuckle things that it starts to like.
Oh
He
yeah,
gets
they're
really
like
mad and you can
electrocuting.
just start seeing him. And the moment I wanted to talk about too, like back when I was talking about Black Chrysanthemum, was there's a moment when you were talking about the fact that he freed him as he could have just kept him enslaved. I think there's a moment where Black Chrysanthemum, because when Boba talks to him and offers him, he kind of turns and looks. And that's another thing that Favreau and them do very well in Mando and here. The characters that don't have like speaking abilities, or, at times the facial expressions aren't clear. Like in this scene, you can tell that Black Chrysanthemum turns to Boba and is considering like taking the offer that Boba has offered. And then there's that moment in his eyes. It like pans to his eyes, and you can tell he's like, this guy just had the chance to really do some damage to me, and yet he's now released me, and now he wants to pay me money to help him. And I'm kind of seen as this outcast anyway because they're all scared of me. So it's like, I think that had a lot. You can see it in his eyes, and I think there's that's a cool moment because I think there's a big emphasis on Black Chrysanthemum's eyes, because every time you see him, you'll see it pan into his face, and it's very like
It's
the way
the actor.
Chewbacca was.
Whoever's playing Black
Yeah.
Chrysanthemum is acting really great with just the eyes. Like
Right.
you can kind of tell what he's thinking, and just like the way he looks over, and it's just like, yeah, that's the biggest part of a Wookiee, is the mannerisms and their eyes, because the eyes is the only part of the actual actor that you see.
Yeah.
Peter Mayhew as Chewbacca, it's all in the eyes. And it's also in like how they walk and stuff. But like when you're talking about expressions, it's the only thing the actor can really control is their eye expressions, because the rest of it is a mask.
Right.
So it is very very interesting on how you can do that. And whoever's playing him, I don't know if we have
Carrie Jones.
Jones.
Yeah, I just looked it up. Interesting. I'm trying to see if he's in anything else as I'm Googling him currently. But like I thought, what's his name? What is the guy's name that plays Din Djarin? Crap.
Why am I? It's Pablo, right?
Yeah.
What's his name?
Crap.
Talk about an epic mind slip here as we try to figure
Pablo
out.
Pascal.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah. He's great with his mannerisms.
Yes, yeah.
I thought, because Boba has a lot more without his helmet on. Whereas Din, we had the whole season without him taking that.
Well, not all of that is Pablo too. There's times where
doubles,
there's times where it's doubles because he has other things filming.
Right.
Like I almost guarantee if Din shows up next week, he's gonna wear his helmet the whole time, because Pablo was filming The Last of Us, the PS game HBO series. So I'm not sure.
Talking about the documentary about 2022.
Yeah, no. So I was talking about the Michael Jordan Last of Us documentary. So I'm thinking he'll just be voiceover, because I think during this he was filming The Last of Us, unless if he was able to come back and film this. I'm not fully sure. I think Last of Us maybe filmed in California, maybe Australia. I don't remember. So I'm not sure how well that would have turned out. But yes, I guess that's something that. So this guy who plays Black Chrysanthemum has been in. He's done like special effects and designer and makeup crew for like Walking Dead. For a lot of those type of things. For Predator, I think he acted in as his acting credits. He was in the movie Predators. Teen Wolf TV series. So he's done a lot of like stuff that's heavily makeup and effects. So he probably knows what he's working with just the eyes and stuff. So that's pretty cool. So then we get the banquet where he's going to put together all the families. Very Godfather-esque, I guess. He's going to get all the families together, and he's going to make them an offer that they can't refuse, but they will refuse it first. But that they can't refuse. So these are the crime bosses. He wants to unite and take out the Pikes. They don't want to take out the Pikes because they use some of the spice. You know, they get money from the sale of the spice. But he says you can pretty much have your cake and eat it too, right? You can act neutral. Don't give me up. Don't give away what I'm doing here. Act neutral towards me. You still get your money from the Pikes. And I'm going to also take them out for you, and we'll rule this place together. Pretty much let me do all the work. You just shut up and don't do anything.
Mm.
But before he's able to make that pitch, they're all kind of a little rowdy and refusing. And we get the Rancor sticking his claws through the thing. And, you know, he situated this table right over that. It was beautiful. He does that. And it makes everybody jump up scared. And, you know, he's like, please, sit. Like, it's so good. It is so good.
And doesn't Link threaten him in the call? Because like, easy boy, easy.
Yeah.
Because one was like,
I will
kill you. And he's like, no, you won't.
He's like, yeah, no, he's harmless, right? But it's a threat. If you don't really follow through with this, I can have you get eaten by my Rancor. Which they didn't probably think was there because of, you know, what had happened to Jabba.
Mm-hmm.
So they're going to remain neutral while he fights the Syndicate alone. And this is when Fennec says, as they're watching them leave, you know, he's pretty much like, I have no idea where we're going to get all these people. And she says, well, you have money, and money can buy firepower. And we get the Mandalorian theme song. It's hinting that Din Djarin is going to be coming. Will he have his Darksaber? We don't know. That could help. And they're going to go up against the Pikes. And I think maybe next week is recruiting, right? Don't you think? We get some recruit. Do we get anybody else from the Mandalorian? Do we get Bill Burr's Mayfeld? Do we get Grief Karga? Or is it just going to be Mando and then maybe some other bounty hunters he's worked with in the past?
It'd be cool to see Bo-Katan, I think. Like, I think it'd be interesting to kind of see if she is around.
I don't know if she will because I don't know the relationship between Bo
and how it's
and
going.
Mando right now, with her thinking he wants the claim of the Mandalore and stuff. So
yeah, and I always felt like they might have been setting that up for
season 3
conflict. Yeah, so I don't know. It'll be interesting. Maybe they allude to it. Maybe, you know, they've kind of said a little different, or maybe she's just following along because he is now the leader of the Mandalore. So it's like, okay, well, I kind of have to do what he says now, but then maybe that builds up into, I don't know. It'll be interesting to kind of see where, but no, I don't. Somebody was like, oh my gosh, Luke's going to show up. He's going to be part of the, I'm like, I don't think so. I just don't see that happening, but I do think he's got a band of badass villains that he's starting to, not villains really, but kind of these vigilantes that are just kind of hanging out going.
He's got Chrysanthemum. He's got Fennec.
Yeah.
He has the cyber bikers.
Yeah.
You know, he's got
a Rancor.
He's got a Rancor. He's going to ride in on, I'm sure. He's got Mando coming in here.
Yeah.
I think it would be really cool. There was rumors, and I don't think this is going to happen, guys, unfortunately. There's been rumors of a de-aged Han Solo. I don't know if it's happening.
Wonder.
I don't know what you could do to get Boba to go to Han Solo and say, I need help. And I don't know what Han Solo would be like, yeah, I'm going to help out Boba Fett. Like, I don't know if that would work. Mm-hmm. But that'd be really cool. Having like a Chewbacca team up with Black Chrysanthemum and having a young Harrison Ford, or maybe even getting Alden Ehrenreich, whatever his last name is, from Solo. You know, something like that could be really cool. But I just don't know if they're going to go that far with it. Now, there's been rumors and people speculating maybe Cad Bane, he is a bounty hunter as well. He's got some beef with Boba. I think that would be super cool. I'll share this picture of Cad Bane in case people don't know who he is, I guess. Let me share this.
I know people had been rumoring like Bosk being around.
Bosk would be interesting. Dengar, stuff like that. This is Cad Bane from the Clone Wars.
He's cool looking.
Yeah, he's really cool.
It's very Western looking.
He'd fit right into Tatooine.
Yeah, he would.
Yeah,
that'd be cool. Could you imagine
really cool.
what that would look like as live action? Like that'd be.
Oh, it would look great. Yeah, I think he would look really good. I'm all for it, but I do wonder where they would go with that, because they have not a great history. So I do wonder if that is not in the cards for us. Bosk would be interesting because he's a Trandoshan, so he'd have to work with Black Chrysanthemum. Black Chrysanthemum would have to work with him, but Boba has a history with both of them. Maybe he's able to ease some tensions. I don't know. But
Black Chrysanthemum would rip his limb off if he wasn't.
Yeah. I'm excited for whatever. I think next week is episode 5, which is, I think, written by Favreau alone. But apparently episode 6 is a Filoni and Favreau written episode. So I do wonder about that.
Do you think that the Pikes are also in on wanting Grogu?
No. I think they're just regular
run of the mill takeover.
Run of the mill. I got my
drug dealers.
Drug dealer, yeah. Cartels. Yeah. Something like that.
That makes sense.
It is very Western though. You got Boba as like a sheriff who doesn't want those spice runners in my town. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like it's very Western with mafia connections here. And I think, man, Cad Bane would fit right into this. I'd really enjoy that. And if he did, I'm thinking maybe episode 6, if it's going to be written with Dave Filoni. Dave Filoni is, very familiar with Cad Bane. I think that could work out.
Hear me out, Disney Gaming. You've got a chance here to make an open world
Red Dead Redemption with Cad Bane and Boba Fett.
There it is. I was going that way, and you stole it. That's exactly it. And you go to the neighbor town, and that's where Din is. Or you can go hang out on the very far stretches of town with Ahsoka and whatever she's doing with Grogu and Luke.
You got. Oh, instead of like what's the guy's name?
Braithwaite's and the.
No, I was thinking from like what's the Dutch, right?
Yeah,
instead of Dutch's gang, you have Boba's gang. It's Boba, the Mandalorian, Fennec Shand, Cad Bane, Bosk, Black Chrysanthemum, just like teaming up. That'd be great.
Yeah, Garza running the nice pub.
Yes,
the Western bar,
the watering hole.
Yeah, be great. We've got a lot of good ideas today, Jordan.
Yeah, we have. Yeah. But yeah, any last thoughts about this episode, or maybe where you think the show's going? I do think that the main bad guy is the Pikes. I think that'll tie in with if they did kill the Tuskens. I think that's ultimately Boba's thing. But maybe there's somebody behind the Pikes that would set up for season 2 if they're going to do that, or set up for whatever their end goal here is with some of these Mandalorian universe shows.
I mean, obviously, I'm excited for Din because I miss Mando, and Boba got to go to Mando, and Mando gets to go to Boba. So I don't know. I'm excited to kind of see how much of a role that Din plays, because we now have 3 episodes left. So how much longer is he going to now continue 5, 6, 7, and then into his season 3? I think that's a pretty high possibility that he is around at least for that long. I don't know if it'll be in, it might be just in passing or whatever it might be, but at least directly mentioning Din, or at least Mando will get some attention. Like you said, it'll be interesting to see what they do, because I think it'll have to be, I would think, a lot of voiceover work with Din. Unless they did somehow convince Pedro Pascal to come over and do a couple episodes for him. But I No, it'll be interesting. I'm excited to see who they bring in, who are the big guns, because it can't just be Din, right? It can't be Mando. It's got to be more than that, because I feel like she's like, you need a lot of money, and he's like, well, and then the other thing too is like Din, I don't think would even really cost you a whole lot. It's like he's got his friend, but I think Fennec's thinking of some other bounties that have to come in, because she's thinking you're going to have a whole lot of more money to bring in a bunch of bounties to come in here to try to help you. So that's where I think she was thinking. He was thinking more Din Djarin. So I don't know. Be interesting.
Yeah, I do think that maybe Din would be pretty cheap. I think he'd be like, look, you helped me out with Grogu. I'll do this on the cheap. I'll do this on the free. So the money can go to other people.
Yeah, it wasn't who she was thinking of. It was
no, but I think it's the show telling you he's coming.
Yeah, that he's coming, right. Oh, yeah. If he does it, it'd be such a...
That would be weird if he doesn't. Because, look, these are the people that put, like, Boba Fett sound effects in Chapter 5 of The Mandalorian a whole year before he showed up. So yeah. I do think they know what they're doing when it comes to that.
Picture, like, Grogu coming out going, sorry, I was playing the chime, okay? He's not coming, but I'm here, don't worry. I've got my friend Jar Jar.
Before we head out of here, just some news here. Mary Elizabeth Winstead, if people don't know who that is, she is an actress. I'll quickly share a photo here. She, I think, is still dating Ewan McGregor. A little bit of a Star Wars connection there. She is apparently going to be joining the Ahsoka series on Disney Plus. That was just announced like an hour ago on Hollywood Reporter. So we have Mary Elizabeth Winstead, we have Rosario Dawson, we have Hayden Christensen coming back as Darth Vader and Anakin Skywalker. Even though it takes place after Return of the Jedi, so I'm assuming Force Ghost or flashbacks. Yeah, so I'm super excited for that. I'm pleased. I think that'll be great.
Could you imagine that discussion, like that dinner talk, the dinner chat between those two? Like, so, honey, what are you filming? Oh, just Obi-Wan. Oh, what are you filming? Well, I'm just hanging out with Ahsoka. So, yeah, this is pretty cool.
What if they weren't able to tell each other? Like, they had non-disclosure agreements, and they're like, so what are you doing today? I'm going to work.
As what? Nothing? Don't worry
about it. Then they show up at the same sound stage.
Yeah. Oh, my cat's going to take down my
cat that was knocking down the thing.
No. Yeah, but no, it would be great. Or she's going to kill Obi-Wan.
Yeah.
Like, I have to kill you in another, like, there's another universe I have to kill you, and obviously he dies because Vader kills him. So that doesn't make sense, Logan. But maybe Obi-Wan kills her.
It's a whole multiverse situation.
Yeah, it's all running together for me at this point.
But yeah, so it should be good. If you want to give us a follow, you can reach us on Twitter at podawakens, facebook.com/podawakens, Instagram at podawakens. And email us podawakens@gmail.com if you want to share your thoughts on who you think will show up. We can see if you're right next week when we open them up and see what happened this week. So hope everyone has a great rest of your week, and we'll catch you next time.
I have spoken.